I'm going to record. I have a very sad puppy because the girls left. Oh, you'll be fine. Oops. Having technical difficulties. All right, there we go. Can you see it?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to continue on with the zones of regulations, and I'm pretty sure this is like the last little bit of the zones that we're going to tap into. And we haven't had a chance to look at the book. There is a book, and I can show you the book after we're done so you can see it. But it's actually pretty cheap. It's not too expensive. I believe it's between 60 and 70. It has more details on different strategies, of course, and then also goes a little bit deeper into triggers. So I'm kind of just hitting the first. Excuse me. We'll go in the cage. I got to use my zones with him too. So if you want to go deeper into it, I would be. Forgive me. Hold on, let me get him something to help him calm down. I think he's sad that the girls left.
What?
I need to go to your car and get a water bottle.
Okay, there's none in there.
There's none in there.
There's some in the fridge.
The refrigerator here.
Okay, forgive me. Hoping that it will calm him down. So we're gonna go look a little bit more into the zones. He's a very vocal dog. I might have to move upstairs. Stop. Use your zones. Hey. 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 And you probably can't hear me, can you? Huh? Okay, there you go. You just need to play. I'm like, you have all these toys. He has like tons of toys, and now his brother's downstairs to tell him to be quiet. So, well, here's the objectives. Now that he's busy, forgive me for that. We will learn about the 3 different thinking strategies because there's 3 different ones through the zones of regulations. And then the 3 different ones are actually understand the size of the problem, as well as inner coach versus inner critic, and then super flex with rock brain. So there's the 3 different ones we're going to look at today. So how's it going? I know we talked a little bit before, but have you implemented anything into your home that either Mr. Pareto has recommended, because he does use the zones of regulations as well, or anything that you have learned?
Trying to think. I don't know about zones of regulation, but we do a lot of incentives. He has to work for everything.
So positive reinforcement.
Yes.
Oh yes, that's really good. And I'm hoping to do a training or like to talk about that a lot more and go deeper into positive reinforcement in one of the classes. So yes, thank you for reminding me. whenever I talk about positive reinforcements, I always tell everybody it's just like when we go to work. You know, we don't go to work for free. I mean, unless you're volunteering, but you still have something coming out of it, right? You're feeling good about yourself when you donate your time. But when you go to work, you don't expect to be working for free. You always get your check. Yes, it takes 2 weeks, but we're still getting something out of it. So um, I'm glad. I'm glad that's working for Elliot. So maybe ask Mr. Criddle how he implements zones more in. I think he has just a very simple one. And sometimes, don't go too elaborate. Like I said, I use like a little strip for my little kinders. Super simple, and just remind, and I'm sure he knows the nice thing is Elliot already knows all vocabulary. So even if you're like, oh, I see you're on the red zone, which I have done to him actually myself, he automatically knows it and he tells me what he needs. So he's very good at advocating for himself. So that's a beautiful thing. So how about you, Miss Day? Are you there? Did you put anything in your class yet? I don't know. if
Sorry, sorry, I'm here, kind of. No, actually, it's my schedule has been really crazy. I haven't really seen kids too much. And most of the kids I have right now, I really don't have a lot of those behaviors because it is such a small group and things like that. But yesterday we were in the staff PD and we had to do some activities with Legos. And it's funny because immediately I'm now looking at Legos from that video I briefly saw the other day. I was like, oh, this is the yellow zone, this is the green zone, this is the red zone, and this is where I am right now. Like, so I cannot look at Legos the same way anymore. But no, I haven't been able to really implement anything yet.
That's okay. Take your time. Maybe for next year, make a goal. That's another thing too, is when I do the trainings, just make a goal. Like when I go to the gym, I'm not like, oh, I'm gonna be buff by tomorrow. No, it's gonna take me some time. So make a goal like, oh, I'm gonna look at, which poster I want. Okay, and then next week I'm gonna make the poster, and then I'm gonna pick a book for the following week. So just kind of making goals, simple goals, just like we do with, majority of our stuff that we try to implement, all our fabulous ideas. And sometimes they come and we get to do it, and then sometimes we're like, nope, that didn't really happen. Like the gym for me, that has not quite happened yet. All right, so I'm glad at least we got something going on. All right, so we're going to still be going into self-management. And with self-management is last week we did checking in, looking at the zones across the day, exploring sensory tools and exploring calming tools. Now we're going to be looking more into the thinking strategies with the size of the problem, inner coach and inner critic, and superflex versus rock brain. And then of course we'll talk about the zones toolbox as we're going through. So that will hit all of the section of self-management. So there's 3 different thinking strategies in the zones of regulations. So there is 1, size of the problem, 2, inner coach versus inner critic, and then superflex versus rock brain. So size of the problem is really looking at the different problem. So, for example, spilling your coffee in the morning might be a big deal to me because I'm running 5 minutes late and I need to be at work. And now I got to go change my clothes because coffee spilled on my shirt. Or it might not be a big deal the next day when, I had an extra 30 minutes. I spilled my coffee. I have time to change. Now my problem's not as big. So just really looking at the different situations at different times, as well as different environments. What is that size of the problem, and how to help your child understand that different problems have different ways of correcting them, but also different ways of responding to them. And then inner coach versus inner critic is kind of like a self motivation piece. So instead of being like, I can't do this, I'm not smart, I'm dumb. Instead, we're going to teach them how to be more of a critic, like, oh, I can't do that now, but I know if I keep practicing, I can get it done. And then we're going to look into superflex versus rock brain. So rock brain is very like stuck in your way. I'm not changing the way I'm thinking. This is how it is. I'm not wrong. And then we got this with those superflex of like, oh, maybe I should look at it their way. Oh, maybe they're right. So being a little bit more flexible with their thinking. So
Elliot, you're definitely a rock brain.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, a little fuzzy.
He's a rock brain.
What was that?
He's a rock.
Oh, a rock brain. Well, now you're going to get some strategies on how to help him hopefully get to a little bit more super flex. Like I said, just know like this isn't going to happen overnight. One, it's very, you have to be very consistent. And then also you'll be a model as well. And then just over time, if you're consistent, practice, then it becomes permanent, like Mr. Allen says. Practice makes permanent, and I like that. So we're going to look at the first one. This is the size of the problem. So just remember the size of your action has to match the size of the problem. How big do others see the problem? How big should your reaction be? So it's really looking at like, how is this problem is in my mind, but also others as well. So it's able to recognize what a big, medium, and small problem is. They're going to learn to analyze and they learn to analyze a situation and rationalize how big a problem is. So, not being able to get this math problem. Oh, well, I think it's a huge problem to me and I want to be really upset, but I can ask the teacher for help. I can ask my friend for help. I can YouTube it. So there's different ways. So maybe this is just a medium to little problem. So a 2, 3. So they're going to start really looking at their problem and being able to almost analyze it and be like, and rationalize it and figure out where is that problem fit on the size scale. And then they're going to gain insight that the size of their reaction or expected response must match the size of the problem. So if this is a little to medium problem, that means my reaction should be kind of little. It could be like, oh, instead of being like, I can't do it, and scribbling it, right? That would be more of a huge problem. And then showing them what a huge problem would be, right? Would be like, oh, brother broke his leg. That's a huge problem. We should be kind of like, panic mode, right? Call the ambulance or pick him up and go to the hospital if that's a huge problem. So even though that one too, you want to try to stay calm, but it is a big problem. So how would our emotions look like during that time? It would be a little bit different than if a math problem that I could get asked for help for pretty quick. So then they will also understand how to use the size of the problem that can help to regulate their zone. So looking at the size of the problem might help them look at it and be like, oh, it's just a little problem. I can still stay in the green zone. Just take some few deep breaths, let it go. I can go ask the teacher. I can go ask my friend if my teacher's not ready. Maybe I can look up my notes. So just really seeing that, oh, this is not a big deal. I can fix this. So I do have a video that I think she does a wonderful job in showing us how little the stages of the problem, how big is the problem, and how kids should be thinking about that.
So there are some thinking strategies that we talk to the children about, which will help them in the situation think about the best way to solve the difficulty or problem that they're having. And I will go into these thinking strategies in a little bit more detail. One of the tools that we use is to think about the size of the problem. This helps pupils to understand the bigger picture of what's going on, teaches them to be objective in their thinking. And we talk about matching the size of the reaction to the size of the problem using a 5-point scale, which I will describe in more detail now. When children become upset in school, we ask them to think about the size of the problem. Okay, and the size of the problem can be measured on this 5-point scale. So it varies from a tiny problem to a little problem, a medium problem, a big problem, and a huge problem. And we remind children that we have to have the right reaction to the size of the problem. So actually, if it's a little problem that can be sorted out quite quickly, then we don't need to be going into the red zone. We can see that a little problem sits in the green colour. So we can have a green reaction to that problem and we can get it sorted quite quickly. So a big problem is a problem that many people share and there's no easy, quick or pleasant solution. And there will sometimes be big problems that will cause children quite rightly to go into the red zone. That does happen. That happens for us as well as adults. Okay. A medium problem is a problem that some people share but can be resolved quite quickly, so within an hour or a couple of days. So this sort of thing will involve a fallout with a friend. Okay, and then a little problem, so those green problems are things that only affect 1 or 2 people and that could be ignored or could be solved within a couple of minutes. So if a child becomes upset about something, we can talk to them about the size of the problem and how long they think it will take to get sorted, what kind of response they should be showing to that problem. Another of the thinking strategies that we encourage is for children to problem solve using stop, opt, go. And there's a traffic light to kind of remind them how this works. So stop before you act. Think of all the options and how they will work out, and then go with the best option. So this is often useful on the playground if children are getting upset or angry with people, trying to calm them, wait for them to stop, to think about the best way of resolving the situation.
Okay. So the nice thing about that, she kind of broke down the different, let me see if I can bring it back up. The different, started right here at the 2, there we go. The different problems and how they may take, how long they may take. So like a big problem would be like, this is not going to be quick. Let's see if we can solve this within a day or 2. Or a medium problem, it should be like an hour or maybe a couple of days. But usually we can get that solved with other people. Or a little problem that, oh, we can solve this really quick. I can get help from my teacher or my friends. So I like that she kind of put it in perspective of how long big, little, medium problems can be. And then that way when you look at, because sometimes our kids have big emotions for little things and big things. So it's really about looking through that situation. Be like, oh, what's going on? Oh, your friend took a toy. Is that a big problem, or is that a little problem? Oh, well, it should be maybe a medium problem, really, right? Because you might have to wait a little bit for that toy, or maybe tomorrow you can have that toy.
Culture in different regions and
I'm sorry, what was that? Did you say something, Miss Matos? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't hear you. But just really looking at the different, looking at that scale and even showing them the scale of which one it looks like, with the visual and everything, it really shows them how to really look and determine what areas their problem at, what areas are problem and how to react to that problem.
I think a lot of times we struggle with, he just overreact. It's a big reaction for things that don't need to be.
Yes. And so this is a great visual. You could actually put like on your somewhere and be like, well, where do you think your problem's at? Is it going to take a minute to fix this? Is it going to take, an hour to fix this? Or do you think this should be like a few days we're going to fix it? And I'm pretty sure he'll say like, maybe like a minute or two. Okay, well, this should be more in the green yellow, right? So how can we fix it pretty quick then?
Yeah.
Really giving him that visual. And then this is part two is what I really liked. And it's hard for kids. I know it's hard because I mean, even as an adult, we want to react fast, right? Instead,
Right.
it's saying, let's stop, take a deep breath. Let's think about our options. Okay, so A, I can go throw a fit, and then I might get grounded. I might get, my incentive taken away. Or B, I can I can wait for a little bit longer and do something else while I wait for my video game, and then come back and play my video game or do my chores or whatever it is that I need to do and not get grounded or my incentive taken away. What is the best option, right? Oh, I think I'm gonna go take that walk or whatnot, whatever it is. But really just stopping, think about what you're gonna do, because that's what's gonna affect you in the future, right? Or in the near future. So I think that's really hard when we have emotions going on. So it's best to practice before, but just really maybe even another visual would be really good, is or even like a sign like we need to time out, let's stop, let's think, and then let's like decide what we're gonna do. So I think I really like this one for some of the kids to just really just stop and think. And our world is so fast paced that sometimes they forget to stop and think before they react. So, and I think the next one is this one is actually inner coach versus inner critic. So this one is more about like self-talk or self motivating, right? So they're able to provide examples of positive and negative talk instead of saying, I'm not good at it. Instead, I can say, I can get better with practice. Let me practice this skill. Or I give up. I don't want to do this. Or be like, I'm on the right track. I just need to push through this little bump I have over the heel. I always tell them the heel, the dips, the heels and the dips. So really giving them those different ways of being positive over negative self-talk. Positive affirmations. So they will also demonstrate insight into circumstances when they are using negative self-talk. They will be able to provide positive self-talk statements for circumstances they find lead them to less regulated state. So when I'm in a more of a yellow, red zone, I know I need to self-talk to myself like it's okay. This will pass. I think a lot of us do this already, especially as adults. Like, okay, that bill will be paid for. No need to worry. Next check will pay for it. We kind of already do our inner coach, right? And instead of being oh my gosh, I'm broke. Oh, we can't go on that Disneyland trip anymore. Instead, we're trying to think more positive, right? Like that positive energy. And you'll also see like when your positive energy is flowing, when your positive energy flowing, your kiddos will feel it too. Or if your energy is like negative, your kids will feel that too. Because you're so connected that they're able to see like, oh, mom is very positive, and they might be a little bit more happy going. And then they'll be able to understand how to use the inner coach to help them regulate the zone. So being able to go, I'm in red zone because somebody hit me, be like, okay, it was just a little hit. It didn't really hurt me. I don't like it, but I can tell them. I I can tell them I didn't like that. And then turning, I didn't really like that you hurt me. Using their words instead of their reaction is really good. I like this one because a lot of kids, we have some kids are like perfectionists. So I made a mistake, it's garbage, like throw it in the garbage. Mistake, but mistakes help us learn. If we didn't make mistakes, we would never learn. So mistakes help me learn, it would be more of a positive. So just changing the way they think is what inner critic and inner coach. And like I said, this won't happen overnight, but sometimes the little changes build into bigger changes later. For example, I was told you need to look at yourself in the mirror and say positive things to yourself. I'm like, oh no, 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 no. The only time I look in the mirror is when I'm putting on my makeup, right? So now it's like, okay, fine, I'm gonna try it. So now every morning I tell myself I'm putting on my makeup, I'm gonna have an energized day. It's gonna be a great day. I'm not gonna be tired. And normally I'm pretty good about my energy level, but it kind of helps me remind myself like I can do this instead of being like, oh, I'm so tired. I need coffee. I need energy drinks. I need 20 million other things to keep me up. But instead, it kind of starts my day off like in a good flow. So that's my inner coach talking to me instead of my inner critic saying, nope, you can't do it. You're tired all the time. Just go to bed. So even as adults, we do it constantly. I just don't think sometimes we realize what we do and we're doing naturally. And some kids have not learned that yet. And it's good for them to kind of hear it from us, one. So when I walk around, I can say it out loud so my kids can hear it. So then they can start. Hopefully, it becomes natural to them eventually one day. So the same lady again, she actually explains it a lot better than probably I do, but I wanted you to hear like a second way of hearing it of the inner coach. Uh-oh, come on, internet. It needs coffee too. Mm, let me try again. Let's see. There.
One of the other techniques that we encourage the children to use is to think about the inner coach and the inner critic. So this is the voice that you kind of hear inside your voice when you're inside your head when you're doing something that either encourages you or discourages you in an activity. So some of the statements are positive ones, some of them not so positive, and the positive ones we would say your inner coach. So things like you can do it, or try again, or I'm getting the hang of this. Those are things that can help children to become resilient and to keep trying. I talk to the children about this one a lot when I say that I run very slowly. I'm often at the back of a race, but I enjoy running, and I will use these things to remind myself that I'm doing well as I'm running along and to keep me going and to stay positive. And we're encouraging this, particularly with our older children, to train themselves to have that positive inner voice, to really encourage them to become resilient as they go forward in life.
So I like her example because I hate running. And I always tell her I hate running, but if I have to do it, I would do it, right? I can encourage myself, like I could do this, little by little, I can, take my time and do it. But it's just those positive affirmations and putting that in them, as you're sending them off to school. You're so smart. I can't wait to hear about your day later. You are loved is a good one. I wish Miss Alba was here because she does tapping, and each tap she does an affirmation. So she'll like tap and be like, I'm smart, I'm loved, I can do this, and then each tapping reminds them of each affirmation. So then during the day, they remember when they start tapping, when they get that anxiety or the yellow zone or the red zone, then they can start tapping and remembering all those affirmations. And so that's kind of the same thing with the inner critic versus the inner sorry, I forgot what it's called, inner coach, is that it kind of, you're building that affirmation vocabulary in them. Any questions before I move on?
No,
You're pretty good. I've heard you say wonderful things about him, Elliot. It's now getting him to rethink that he can do it on his own. So I'm sure soon he will get to that point, though, especially in Mr. Preto's class. And sometimes it's just building their self-confidence. That's is what is needed sometimes, is that they don't really have that confidence yet. And once you build it, then they'll start saying, I can do this. And they're like, I knew you could do it. So the next one is Superflex versus Rock Brain. So the children are able to identify the difference between rigid rock brain and then thinking and superflex thinking. So going from like, nope, this is how it is, to like, well, let me look at it like how mom looks at it, or how my friend looks at it. And then they, during this time, they are able to identify instances where they experience rock brain thinking, as well as one when they use superflex thinking. So you can go from asking them, okay, think about a time that you knew you were right and you just knew it, right? And you didn't want to change your mind. So that's a rock. You know, rocks don't really move. You can't bend them. You can't do anything with them besides just kind of sit there, right? And then you can get maybe like a pipe cleaner. They're kind of bendy and they flex and they move. You can twirl them. You can create something beautiful out of it, really. And that's what you can do with Superflex. Okay, now let's think about a time that you're like, oh, well, maybe mom's right. If I finish my chores, I can have a great rest of my day, just relaxing. And then they could see how, oh, you're flexing, you're moving, you're thinking, instead of being stuck of like, nope, I don't want to do this. This is not fair. I did this yesterday. I shouldn't have to do it again. Then they see the difference between a rock brain and being really flexible. And then they learn to change their thinking patterns and to help them regulate again their zone. So most of the time when anger hits us, we usually go into rock brain, right? Like, I'm angry. I don't want to deal with this. This is how it is. But if you ever have a chance, watch Larry Boy and the Angry Eyebrows. It is a more of a Christian base, but I like it because these angry eyebrows come, and it reminds me of the rock brain and the super flexible, right? So these angry eyebrows come and they attach to you if you're like super angry. And so then, of course, once you're angry, you kind of stay in that phase, and the angry eyebrows are there, and then your anger just grows and grows and grows, and you're angry at the whole world instead of just the little tiny problem that happened, until Larry Boy does his flexible thinking and like, wait a minute. And it says, God says to let go of my anger. So then he lets it go, and all of a sudden the angry eyebrows are let go. And then everybody around him, because they were angry too, right? Because he's angry, that means everybody else is angry. It affected everybody else. They started, their angry eyebrows are let go. So now they're like, wait a minute, Larry Boy can do it. Well, then I could do it too. Super cute movie. Great way of a visual of showing how anger can kind of control us and other people. But also showing that super flex thinking of like, okay, I need to let it go so everybody else can be let go too of their anger, and kind of being that example. They don't understand how much they affect everybody else. And if you change your mind, what do you think everybody else is going to see? Oh, maybe I should change my mind too. He looks happy instead of angry. I want to be happy. Happy feels good. It feels delicious. So if you ever get a chance, please watch Larry Boy and the Angry Eyebrows with your kiddos. It's like one of the best movies. Gosh, I've been watching it with my son who's 21. So gosh, it's probably like a 20-year-old video, but he still talks about it these days and to these days. Because I even after a while, when I noticed that he was angry, I would be like, "Oh my gosh, you have angry eyebrows. Let me take those off." And then kind of sidetracks him, and then he giggles, and then we used to talk about his problem. So the kids love that video too. Whenever I would show it. So here is that lady who explains a little bit better and maybe better terminology. Uh-oh, still having a hard time.
We talk about the characters of Superflex and Rock Brain. So Superflex is the person who is a flexible thinker. Okay, so they can consider other people's points of view, and they can think of different ways to do things, and they can change how they're thinking as well. So a flexible person is able to change how they think. So rock brain thinking is a rigid thinking pattern where a person gets stuck on an idea and has difficulty considering other options or ways of doing things. And this can often happen at home with parents and children, where an adult will say to a child, "Do this," and the child will say, "I don't want to do it," and you get into an argument where you're both being rock brains. And what you need to be able to do is to show children how to become flexible and how to compromise. So you could say to your child, "Okay, let's do this first, and then we'll do that." Or, "Okay, what do you want to do now? And then when will you do what I want you to do?" So by being flexible yourself, you can teach your own child those skills.
So I like that one because she said how that we have to be the example of because most parents are like rock brains. So for example, for me, I have to clean every Sunday, and my girls go bananas. They're like, "Why do we have to clean when the house is already clean?" So I'm like, "Okay, if we don't clean on Sunday, we can clean on Saturday." And they're like, "Nope, we'll stick to Sunday." So another one is um, I like to do, gosh, another thing that I'm a rock brain. A lot of things I'm a rock brain, especially when it comes to cleaning. But my girls, sometimes I'll even do, because we do every Sunday, I'll be like, "Okay, if we don't clean this week, I know my cleaning lady's coming, so I could be a little bit more flexible, right? It's probably going to hurt me more than it hurts the girls or anybody else in my house if I don't clean. But sometimes, even if I just start cleaning by myself, they actually come and join and be like, "Well, we can help you a little bit." So just trying to show like I'm trying to change my mindset because, sometimes we're stuck in our ways as adults. That if they see that, then they change their mindset. So then necessarily they didn't want to clean, but because they saw me start cleaning, they started helping me. So, and I'll be like, "Oh, you don't have to help me." And they're like, "No, but we want to because, it's what we normally do." So just kind of seeing the areas that you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm a little bit rock brain during this time. How can I be super flexible?" And maybe even talk with it with your child, like, "Oh, I notice I'm a rock brain with this. Can you help me?" So then maybe when they feel like, "Oh, I'm a rock brain with this. Can you help me, mom?" Kind of shows them that you're human because we are human. We do cry, we do get angry, we do have rock brains sometimes, and we can be super flexible. So I think sometimes kids see us as robots, and no, we're human. We have to, um, I think, deal with much more on that size problem, much more problems. But we've learned the strategies and skill set to be able to not one show that, but also be able to strategize and not make it such as a big problem, like they said for the red zone. So I think a lot of the times we keep that to ourselves, and one, it internalizes inside of us, and sometimes it comes out later in a much different way, maybe even bigger. But two, it doesn't allow our kids to see that, we do have emotions and we are facing some things and we are having to work through things. And this is how we work through it. And so it kind of gives them that example, that model that they need to hopefully in the future, when they hit that same problem, that they're able to remember, like, oh, I remember mom used to do this. Maybe I should try it. And maybe they'll try something totally different. Who knows? And we're all different, creatures of nature. So they get to choose what they want to do that helps them. So any questions about Superflex versus Super Brain? Oh, I'm sorry, Rough Brain, not Super Brain. Perfect. So I like this quote. It says, everything is hard before it's easy. Sometimes we think life should be easy, 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 and especially kids, they think everything should be easy. But if it wasn't, everything we do is always hard at first, and then it becomes easy because we learned it, right? Walking as a baby was hard for when you were walking, but now we don't even think about it, right? It's almost it's very natural. Actually, it's not almost, it is natural. We don't think about walking. So just like that math problem, or just like those dishes that are piled up, it may look hard right now, but soon it'll be so easy once you have music on and you're dancing and giggling, and before you know it, it's gone. The dishes are gone. So just remind, your kiddos that everything is hard at first, but at the end, after a while, it becomes easy. So even dealing with our emotions are hard, but as soon as we learn those strategies, soon it will be easy. And there is an end to the tunnel. That's one thing I like to look at too. There's always an end to the tunnel that we feel like is sometimes surrounding us. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. So let's see what we have next. Oh, we are done. Wow. So do you have any questions or any concerns, any comments you want to share?
No, this is just putting a lot of things that I feel and see into words, especially with dealing with Elliot, and just, it's nice to see that it's not just in my head.
No. I met a mom yesterday and I'm like, sometimes as moms, we need to know that we're doing everything. And I told her, you are doing everything and it's a beautiful thing. I said, are your children perfect? No, but do I expect them to be perfect? No, don't expect them to be perfect. We are all unique in our own way. But mom needs self-care too. Mom needs to take care of herself too. So remember that, like, we are also emotional creatures, and show them that we're emotional creatures. And I think she just needed to hear that affirmation, from the outside world.
Right.
Yeah. So yes, sometimes we just need to hear it.
Sometimes when he's having a moment and I say, you need to use your strategies or you need to take a break, and then he'll want to apologize. I said, you need to let mommy have a break. Give me a break for me to be calm, and then we can talk. And he seems to understand that.
Yeah, good. See, he's learning, and then he'll learn to take breaks too.
Right.
That's the nice thing. He's learning through you, and that's the beautiful thing of always being around you too, is that he's going to learn. And then you'll see the things too, like for example, my daughter does things that I'm like, oh my gosh, I do that. She's learned that from me.
Yeah. So I tell my husband that Elliot and him are like two peas in a pod. I think that's why they butt heads so much.
Oh yeah, I can see that too.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I kind of wanted to add on though, like when you were saying about teaching them, sorry, I've been in and out, but teaching them whatever it was. I feel like because I've also read the book, The Child Whisperer, I think we have to teach them in a way that still is true to themselves. So I think that's why I like two peas in a pod. Well, because they have the same characteristics of who they were meant to be. So even though like my rationale, or like I can use your rationale, like, no, I need to clean the house before the housekeeper comes. That's true to who you need to still be, but maybe your child is not that same. So it's putting it in the words where they can still be true to themselves and still have that characteristic. I guess the best example I can think of is in the book. It says how we try to teach kids what are important to us. So the first thing I always thought is I grew up having to write letters to thank someone when they gave me a gift. Now, that just happened to fit to who I am, but my cousin, raised the same way, will not write letters to this day to say thank you. But that's not true to who she is. But she was never taught how to still say thank you for gifts, and that still allowed her to be true to herself. I don't know if any of this makes sense. I can't really get it out right now because I'm boggling like 3 hats right now. So yes, I think it is true to teach them who we are as a person. Like I'm the serious child, go figure, so things do need to be in a certain way. So for me to also now realize like I'm in the red zone, it's like, but what does that look like for me to still be true to myself on how I validate being in the red zone or how I talk to myself? Because it may not be the same as a child who is considered emotional, or the fun-loving child, or the dominant child. They don't view the world and their emotions the same way as I do. So yes, still teaching them those things, but to where they can do it naturally because of who they are. I don't know if any of that makes
Oh, that
sense.
makes sense.
Because
Ultimately, and I've been learning this too, is that, like you said, true to yourself, but also have a relationship with yourself
Mhm.
and understanding who you are. So that's what you're doing with your child whisper, is that you're learning about who you are because you're building that relationship with you. And sometimes we don't even have a relationship with us, and we don't even realize that our relationship with ourselves should come first, like how mom said, I'm gonna go take a break, I need time. That's building your relationship with you because you're realizing, I'm first. And as mothers and as parents, we always view as, no, our children come first. But just like in that, if you're in a airplane crash, you can't help anybody if you don't have oxygen, right? You're first. You do you first, then you go. So it's always thinking about, how can I help myself, because it kind of reflects off. I never believed this. I was like, there's no way, my daughter needs the help first. And then I got hit with like, no, Heather, you need to be helped first. And now that I see the reflection I'm putting on my child of looking at my problems, regulating my own personal emotions and taking that time for myself, now I'm seeing it on her. So it has been a very long journey on that one. But I think where you're coming from with the child whisperer, and I wrote down the book because I think I might want to read that book too, because I like to see what my own children are. Um, but I think the way you're looking at it is more of like, how am I, so I can build that relationship, but then also see other views of other people. So that way you can um, understand other people and their thinking. And then that way it doesn't affect you. Instead of being like, why are they not writing that thank you note, right? I'm sure you probably used to get angry about it, right? So now you're like, oh, well, you got that flexible brain. Like, oh, well, that's just how she was brought up, or that's how her inner child is.
Yeah.
So I liked it. Thank you for adding that.
Mhm.
So I'm definitely going to look into that book though. Thank you.
Well, and let me know if you do, because I would love to go back and reread it.
Yeah,
I'll do a book study with you.
there we go. So on that note, next week, I put coming next week, but it's actually in 2 weeks we're going to re-meet again. So not next week, but the following week. And then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into decision making and then relationship skills. So we think and then probably a good one would be like looking at our own personal relationship with ourselves, because as mothers and fathers and grandmas and grandpas, we always put ourselves last, and it should be first. And that's a very touchy topic usually, but it'll be a good one, I promise. So, but any other questions or concerns or Are we just ready to rock and roll? We had our coffee and ready to start our day?
I hope so.
Yes, me too. Well, thank you for coming, and I hope to see you in 2 more weeks.
Yep, sounds good.
I'll be in today, Miss Day, to see you.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Have a good day.
You too.